At first, the world's top astronomers called it a meteor. They had to. The doomsayers had already begun with tales of green skin, disc-shaped ships, and invasion. Unfortunately, for the first time ever, science was on the doomsayers' side. The object, whatever it was, steered through our asteroid belt, slingshotting off Jupiter's gravity at a speed that would make Einstein turn in his grave. When the thing slowed enough for us to see it, it seemed to solidify the doomsayers' predictions. A massive ship the size of Rhode Island sailed through the blackened twilight until it pierced our atmosphere and dived into the heart of North America. When it entered United States airspace, we escalated our warning attempts. When its shadow dawned onto New York City, we fired our first ballistic missiles. When its currents brought monsoons to Washington, D.C., our president had his finger on the one button we prayed he'd never press. But it didn't stop in our most populous areas, nor our most important ones. Instead, the ship kept going until it reached the farmlands of Kansas, where for the first time, we spotted the name carved into the side of its hull: Noah's Ark. The Vatican called it spiritual awakening and demanded we examine it. The nationalists called it a violation of our space and vowed to destroy it. The United Nations called it psychological warfare and pleaded for us to unite against it. Everyone else simply stared, their jaws agape and eyes wide. Somehow the aliens had split apart the world, and with only 2 words. For 3 days, the ship remained motionless atop miles of flattened corn. A circle of tanks, missile carriers, and soldiers encircled it. When its hull opened, our soldiers' shoulders stiffened, their fingers trembling just over their triggers as our artillery officers held their breaths. What would such an advanced being want with us? Drones poured out of the ship and they attacked, but not our soldiers, not our tanks, not even our missiles. They went after the corn, harvest, liquidating, storing. The aliens wanted food. Our military was too stunned to retaliate. They refused to declare war with the most advanced civilization to ever touch this earth over a few bushels of corn. That was our mistake, because back then, we actually had a chance. To hear the aliens speak of it now, they call it genius military strategy, inching their way forward in the gray area of too little provocation and too much risk. But these bastards love stretching the truth. After all, nowadays they call themselves human. Our first attempts at communication were met with the cold silence of steel alloy. In fact, silence defined most of that time. Military grunts stopped joking. Protesters stopped shouting. Even the religious nuts only stared, fidgeting with their pentagram necklaces or cross wristbands. Radio waves couldn't pierce the metal, and no drone we sent in garnered any response. At last, we chose a soldier. At least that was his job title. In reality, he was our sacrificial lamb, the first monkey to be shot into space just to see what would happen. The world watched with bated breath. His parents held hands, forgetting to even blink as they watched their son approach the ship. Behind the military line was a crowd with signs screaming hero. This space monkey held the weight of the world's hopes, and a hole in hull appeared to his exact size and shape. The aliens were finally willing to talk. Cheers erupted around the world. "Don't go in, Private," we told him. "It's too risky." But the world's weight pushed him forward. 1 billion people holding signs proclaiming him a hero, his daughter who was too scared to even go to sleep at night, his wife who just wanted him back home. It all pushed his feet, one after another, until he stepped through the hole. Then, it closed, and the silence returned. 15 minutes later he returned, his face drained of blood and his knees weak. He came with stories of technology that surpassed our greatest sci-fi stories and even pressed into the realm of fantasy. They want peace, he told us, and the world celebrated. It was the happy ending the world needed. Everyone was happy except for his family. "This isn't PTSD," his wife would complain to us. "He's different." "How?" we asked her. "He just is." Unfortunately, the world needed this faint hope, and so for the sake of humanity, we told her to shut up and join us in celebration as we prepared our second soldier for communication. Hearing about now, they call it a brilliant infiltration. These heroes had access to the world's media, to our leaders, to any important meeting regarding the aliens. They had influence that stretched far beyond their own rank, and they had been replaced by counterfeits. One after another, hero after hero, they began replacing us. The more soldiers we sent in there, the more soldiers we wanted to send in. Those heroes dangled a carrot in front of us: technology to cure all disease, weaponry to conquer the world, elixirs to fend off even death. So we sent in more soldiers, scientists, and engineers. Each one gave us just a glimpse of that carrot, and none ever going in twice. Suddenly, the aliens weren't invaders. They were a resource. The Russians and Chinese demanded representation. It became a race to see how many people we could send in there. Entire platoons sat outside the ship just waiting for their chance to enter. And the complaints kept coming. My husband isn't the same. This isn't the Heather I know. Something's wrong. Please listen to me. This isn't my dad. Unfortunately, the world's response was single and unanimous. Shut up. There was too much to be gained. All our fantasies, all at once, were just a metal hull away from reality. Space exploration, omnipotence, immortality. We silenced those people until the day we sent in our very last soldier. Unlike the others, this one came out running and screaming. He told us that the ship was completely empty except for the dead, which included that very first hero we sent in. At the same time, the military forces every global superpower mutinied. Cabinet members assassinated our leaders. Engineers disabled our nuclear armaments. Within 24 hours, they had taken over the world. But it wasn't like how we envisioned. Our government stayed intact. Our businesses were kept open. The only difference was that you could no longer tell whether your neighbor was human or not. Though every year, acceptance of our alien invaders increase worldwide. That means that every year, they indoctrinate and subjugate more true humans. They call themselves humans, but they aren't. They are invaders on soil we have sworn to defend. And the fact that they believe the war's already won only proves how little they really know about us.